Let's get started. I'll be using a 7-inch heel for this demonstration. You will also need a tool to cut with. I suggest using the X-Acto knife. It's the easiest and it's the one I use. You'll need a metal ruler and also a cutting mat. This will protect whatever surface you're cutting on from your X-Acto knife. Let's go over a few items that you can use to decorate your shoes. All of these are self-adhesive on the back. This is a foam, so it's a little bit thicker and would be best to just cut out a shape and not actually put it around the whole shoe. Do not use adhesive spray with adhesive back paper. The two will not bond together well. We will need 1 sheet of paper for each heel. If this is your first time, buy 4 sheets just in case you make a mistake. Now that we have our supplies, start by cleaning the shoe. Just take a paper towel and some water, wiping off all of the dirt. This is especially important if it's an old shoe. I'll be using the shiny paper. Again, this is self-adhesive on the back. I like to start off by laying it across my shoe and just eyeballing how much I'll need. If you're not comfortable with eyeballing, you can go ahead and use a ruler. Make sure to add a little bit extra because we need some overlapping the top and bottom of the shoe. You don't want to measure it exactly. If you don't have a cutting mat with a nice grid on it, go ahead and eyeball it using your metal ruler. Just try and keep it straight. Okay, here comes the fun part, but tricky part. Start to peel back the piece that you've cut. Try not to touch the paper too much. Fold back just enough so that you can start to put it on the shoe. We'll start in the center of the shoe, making sure that there's extra on both the top and the bottom part of the shoe. Later on, we'll cut this off. Using your finger, slowly smooth it onto the shoe. If you get a few bubbles, go ahead and pull back up, but don't do this too much because then it won't stick as well. This part can take a little bit of time, so I'll speed this up a bit. You'll come to a point where there's a curve in the shoe, and you'll find that your paper won't quite fit smoothly. We'll need to take the X-Acto knife and cut this free, and we'll start the process again. Once the paper is on the shoe, smooth your fingers over it again. You'll want to press into the top part of the shoe so that you can see the ridge. And you'll also want to do it along the bottom as well. Once your paper is nice and smooth and pressed into the edges, you can take your X-Acto knife again, carefully cutting along the edge. Be sure you're not pressing too hard. You don't want to cut into your shoe. When this is done, simply peel off the extras. Finish by pressing it with your finger again. Let's take a quick look at the bottom of the shoe. Just as before, use the finger to press the paper into the edge of the shoe. Once it's pressed into the shoe, take your knife again and carefully cut along the line. Remember, you don't want to press too hard when using the X-Acto knife. They're very sharp. Now we'll start on the other side of the shoe, using the remainder of the paper we had. Use the same technique as before, slowly smoothing it as you go along, being sure that you have extra on the top and bottom of the shoe. Again, you'll hit the curve and you'll need to stop, grab your knife, and cut it away. Try not to touch the extra paper too much because this can be reused. Smooth out the edges so that you can cut off the excess paper. You might have some gaps, and that's totally okay. You can fill them in. Let's take a look at the back of the heel. This can be the tricky part. You'll start at the top with small, thin strips. You don't want your strip to be too thick because it will not curve around the heel. Take your time when working with this. Only come down as far as the paper will let you. You'll probably have to cut it off fairly soon at the top before it starts to pucker. Remember, you can reuse that extra paper, so don't touch it too much. Smooth the paper as much as possible before moving on to the next section. Taking the same piece of paper, come alongside it and do the same thing, working down until it starts to pucker and cutting it off. For this one, you can see the angle ended up being okay. I didn't need to cut off any extra. Continue working the heel with small, thin strips. You can use longer, bigger strips to go around the entire bottom of the heel once you've gotten past the curvy part. We'll use the same thin, small strips under the shoe as well. Now let's talk about the trickiest part, putting the paper on where the heel meets underneath the shoe. I simply eyeball this by cutting out pieces and starting to apply them. I try and cut out a piece that'll cover as much as possible. Once I get to a point where I can no longer smooth it, I take the X-Acto knife again, see how you can see the outline of the shoe, cut up into it a straight line at an angle. Then I can wrap the remainder of the paper around and stick it onto the back of the shoe. To finish that super tricky section, I used a triangle piece. Doing the same thing that I did before, I stuck it to the bottom of the shoe, and then when it would no longer press out smoothly and could no longer wrap around the shoe, I would take my knife and cut the extra paper, allowing it to wrap around the shoe. Make sure that you're cutting it at an angle so it covers as much shoe as possible. Here's the finished shoe. You might find that you have little spaces where you need to fill in, and that's okay. Go ahead and add a strip. Just try not to add too many little strips. Those will start to tear away. So when you're ready to change out the color, go ahead and simply start peeling it away. You can see on this shoe I used long strips going down. That didn't work as well as going around the base of the heel. I have one more fun tip for you. If you're using an old shoe and it started to peel away, go ahead and take a Sharpie using the same color as the shoe and simply color it in. And that's it, guys. Have fun with it and happy polling.